OutKast workshop, a new era of Black music celebrity, will start with a brief introduction on the evolution of Black artists charting on the Hot 100. And then we will pivot to the first four songs on our list and how celebrity culture influenced the artist listing. Hey Ya, and I Love the Way You Move by OutKast, Slow Jamz by Twista and Kanye West featuring Jamie Foxx, and I Believe by Fantasia. Various articles, documentaries, and clips will build the basis for our discussions during the first session, which focuses on themes of divide, nostalgia, struggle, and perseverance. We are so excited to have Dela Acolatse. I'm so sorry. Um, how do you say your last name again?
Acolatse.
Acolatse, my apologies. Um, examines the important moments in our lives to provide meaning and significance in the journey of life. As an educator, photographer, writer, and researcher, Dela utilizes the interconnectedness of culture and community as a resource for one's personal growth and development. Can we please give a round of applause for Dela?
Thank you all so very much for being in attendance. So a new era of Black musical celebrity will be the first part of our three-part series, the year Black music became pop music. Um, and yes, going to talk about all the songs that hit #1 in 2004. And just so happened that now it's been 20 years since that time. And now we can take a look back and examine all the different connections and all the different stories each of those songs told. So before we can dive into that, we need to dive into the history of the Billboard Hot 100, which is the music industry standard for the top songs in the United States. Billboard magazine has been in existence since since the early 1900s, but then start focusing and tracking music until 1913. And since then, it gone through various iterations before settling on the Hot 100, which was first published in 1958. Since then, it's been one of the longest running and most widely recognized music charts in the world. When it comes to charting Black artists, it's been a different story. Billboard has been publishing charts that track the popularity of African American music genres since 1942. Um, the chart itself has seen multiple name changes and overhauls before being fully established in 1965. Some of the names um, that the chart had included Race Records, the Harlem Hit Parade, and just Black music charts. And then over the years, the chart evolved to reflect changes in music styles and industry trends. And in the 60s and 70s, it expanded to soul music and funk, reflecting the growing popularity of these genres among both African American and mainstream audiences. In the 80s and 90s, the chart became known as the Hot R&B Hip Hop Songs chart, as we know today. During this time, hip hop emerged as a dominant force in popular music, and the introduction of Nielsen SoundScan to the Billboard methodology significantly increased the presence of those songs on the chart. So then, with the rise of digital technology and the internet in the 2000s, the chart adapted to include digital sales and streaming data along with radio airplay. This reflected shifts in how consumers access and consume music, providing a more comprehensive measure of which songs are most popular in the nation. So going into 2004, we had 80% of the songs that topped the R&B chart did the same for the Hot 100. And 2004 is the only year that that all of the songs included a Black artist in the track. And we will take a look at clip. Okay.
Here's every #1 song for 2004. 1 second per week. Get up in here. Let me hear. Yeah. So many hours, I'm still burning. Now lean back. Lean back. Lean. I'm not changing stories, just respect the flame. I want you both to flow. You will always be my love if you will be drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Share with a friend and follow for more music content.
So those were the 12 songs that hit #1 on Billboard in 2004. So for our first workshop series, a new era of Black musical celebrity, we'll look at the songs that represent the rise of new artists and the fall of established ones, and look at the songs that shot to the top and the themes that we're covering, and the themes that they address, which were divide, nostalgia, struggle, and perseverance. So starting off with OutKast, their 5th album, Speaker Box and the Love Below, represented one of the biggest rap groups of all time, hitting the biggest creative divide at the same time of their greatest critical and commercial success. After nearly a decade of being as a rap group, Big Boy, Andre 3000 produced and promoted their own solo albums under the impression of a double album, with little overlap between the two. And that overlap is illustrated in the 2 chart-topping songs that they were able to accomplish. Hey Ya only contains Andre 3000's vocals and a distinct lack of rapping, as we see with the rest of his solo album. Hey Ya itself is a dance, pop / rock blend of the struggle sustained relationship, and the song was skyrocketed to #1, staying at 9 weeks and becoming a diamond record. After that, we had Big Boy's The Way You Move, a collaboration with OutKast associate Sleepy Brown. It's a flirtatious rap record harkening back to blaxploitation era sounds. It charted a single week at #1 and went platinum. The album itself went on to hit diamond and became the 2nd rap album to win the Grammy for Album of the Year. And however, that divide between the group became irreversible as the group released one more album before going on a hiatus that has essentially signified the end. So for questions to consider, I want you to take some time to think about the questions on the slide. If you feel inspired to bring up a different point of conversation, it is very much encouraged. But for these 3 questions, I wanted to address how did the album's success and legacy impact rap's perception in the mainstream? How does the creative divide behind Speaker Box, The Love Below, impact the album in terms of OutKast discography? And what did the split albums from Andre 3000 and Big Boy tell about their artistic identities and what they wanted to present to the world. So we'll take about 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next song. I also wanted to go a little bit deeper into the last question and talk a bit about the artistic identities of Entre 3000 and Big Boy and where they were in terms of 2004. Andre, in terms of OutKast's career, Andre 3000 was known as the more flamboyant, the more creative side of OutKast, while Big Boy was known to just be a very great rapper. And as we see, and you can see that perception in those albums themselves. So Love Below contains very minimal rapping, while Speaker Box, which is Big Boy's album, is a pure rap record, similar to what OutKast has done before. And then shifting into the present day, you can see Andre 3000's evolution from that to his now known solo album, his solo instrumental album, and Big Boy still being well known as a very lyrical rapper, but someone who stays in his who's been very consistent in the type of genre and the type of artistry that he conveyed. Oh, I see a question here saying that the album sealed their legacy in mainstream music. If anyone else feels that opinion, would you care to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I can elaborate. Kind of to everything that you were just saying, it showed the spectrum of what they could do as artists because they were in their own individual lane. And if you think about Hey Y'all, like I remember when that song first dropped, like hearing like all white cover band covering that joint. And I was just like, what the heck is happening? And also like that is how big that record was, right? Like you could hear it at your local dive bar. To where now sometimes I hear it on my at work station that comes on the radio, that plays like that old 90s, 80s, like popular music. I just think that this album kind of solidified like everything that they did prior to, right? Like, because this album was so mainstream, it then opened up the rest of their catalog. So then they can even more get the respect that they deserved as artists.
Thank you, Ash. We'll take about 20 more seconds for anyone else who wanted to share, and then we'll move on to the next song.
I feel like to that point, like I appreciate that they just dropped their album and haven't dropped an album since. I think there are a lot of artists who like will drop a really good piece of music and then keep dropping music, and after that, like the music afterwards is just very disappointing. And so I think it's really cool that like they created a piece of work that they felt like was enough and full enough to like drop and share with folks, and then not really like come back to it as like per se a group. So I think that's also like speaks to their impact that they did what they had to do.
Mhm. Well, great, thank you. We're going to go into the next song. I want you to, based off this clip, guess what you think it might be and what artist I might be talking about.
Can you
Stay closer to his right side. If you get all over his left, you're just shadowing him, and nothing makes the video.
Go on again, queuing a
So
little
you need to
closer to
stay
the
over.
verse. Well, you see it.
That's the side you need to be on.
What he's talking about is having the record player being like a major actual player in the video.
The whole point, Jamie Foxx comes up
Right.
and puts the record on this record player out there for yesterday. All right, the DJ shit was some shit I completely didn't know
Yes.
about. Yes.
Why don't you go jump in the truck, shoot down to Omega, and grab a full box?
You're gonna grab one of those with the stacked up, like double set
Yeah, I
player.
just heard the
It's like,
explanation.
you
Yeah.
open
You just
it
need
up. The thing is, you can say that, but then she just heard the explanation yesterday, and it didn't mean anything. So I'm gonna keep repeating myself over and over and over.
In fact, what you should do,
We know.
do.
Y'all are forcing me to be.
No. Here's what you should do. Here's what you should do. When you get to the spot,
Yeah.
call my cell phone.
And then don't release that. I really wanted to be 2 hours, but it's running in between 2 hours. Show me, act out how you can do that, and it's comical the way this is set up.
So if Twista doesn't nail it in this one take, yeah, it's done.
Sorry, Julie, that's around.
So that was an unreleased clip from Kanye West's recent documentary, Genius, which is currently out now on Netflix. And that unreleased clip is actually footage from the music video for Slow Jams, which is the #1 song that we'll talk about shortly, and which is Kanye's first #1 song. I included that in the clip because you can still see elements of the Kanye that we know of today for the past 20 years, even right in 2004. So Slow Jams, um, as- along with the album The College Dropout, signaled the arrival of Kanye West, who was once a established rap producer turned rap underdog turned controversial rap icon. And with The College Dropout, it represented a shift towards conscious hip hop and soulful, high pitched samples, otherwise known as chipmunk soul, into the mainstream. It's interesting because Twista is credited as the main artist. It was done so that Twista's team would cover costs for the music video that you saw. And part of the reason that the song went to #1, shot to #1, um, because of the artist that it sampled, Luther Vandross, who was in the news as Grammy wins, his Grammy celebration during the last year of his life. The song spent a week at #1 before the singer's death. So then, knowing that The College Dropout became sort of the catalyst of a shift in hip hop and introducing one of the biggest artists that we've known in our lifetime. How did the College Dropout era help shape Kanye's trajectory and the broader landscape of hip hop? So other questions that we can take the time to consider and reflect on together as a group. What elements of Kanye's persona and artistry are still prevalent today? And then how did the sounds of the college dropout stand out from the norm and lead to a shift in rap? And feel free to type in the chat as well. And I want to go back to that clip. And if you have seen the documentary, you can also see elements of someone who is someone who is a perfectionist, someone who's not going to stop until they feel that what they're putting out is perfect to them, and taking hours upon hours until they feel that is right. And with the college dropout, and it's no different with the college dropout compared to his subsequent albums as well. So that's for me, that's one element of Kanye's persona and artistry that I still see today, and that has kept them in the cultural conversation for the last 20 years. We are talking about Kanye right now. He just had a song that just reached #1 in the charts again with Ty Dolla $ign and Playboi Carti and Rich the Kid. And for those who have ever listened to Slow Jams or The College Dropout, what were some things that really stood out for you when thinking about this song or thinking about The College Dropout?
Are folks familiar with the song?
I am.
Great. If folks are familiar with the song, what are your feelings about it? What stood out to you in terms of the song?
Are we talking about? Are we talking about one song or the entire album? I'm a little confused.
So it could be both. It could be either the song, it could be the album, it could be both.
I was here before you, I think. For me, when I think about The College Dropout, there's a playfulness to it, juxtaposed with a lot of very serious topics, and I feel like that really stood out to me. I feel like when I think about art and what art does, or like art, what art, I don't want to say should do, but what good art always does is it makes you feel everything. And I feel like this album did that for me. Like there's a playfulness. He expresses all different kinds of emotions, from like elation and joy to, disappointment and like frustration. It has that like gospel, like I don't want to say feel, but it does have that feel, and the sounds, to match that. And I had another thought, but I lost it. If it comes back to me, I can just drop it in the chat.
All right, thank you. And then also looking at the chat as well, setting fashion trends, seeing the polos over the sweaters over the polo shirts. Kanye had a very distinct style back then, and you can see that style kind of evolve over time. And you can kind of see it tying in with his albums as well, and always setting a new trend. And the song itself, it's a playful love song, having all these different references to old R&B artists back in the day. You know, Anita Baker, Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, Ready for the World, you know, Michael Jackson. And that's where the nostalgia factor comes in. So we'll give it about another 10. So moving on to the last song in our conversation, which is I Believe by Fantasia. And Fantasia's story um, is intertwined with American Idol, which was the biggest and most profitable show on television at the time, a cultural staple in the 21st century America, turned contestants into viable musical stars. And at the end of every season, once they crown the big winner, they have coronation songs, which would see high sales and debut at #1. However, with American Idol, there were criticisms in terms of representation and voting that we'll see in the following clip. American Idol was in its 3rd season when Fantasia was a contestant and was able to connect audiences with her story as a soulful teenage mother overcoming hard times that led her to her victory. Her coronation song debuted at #1, but fell sharply after. But that song itself is actually not her most well-known song, even though it hit #1. And still was able to have a viable R&B career. Last year, she was the lead in the Color Purple film, and is always been known as a artist to listen to in terms of Black America. So the following clip that we'll go into actually talks about a moment in American Idol, that season in American Idol, where Fantasia, along with Jennifer Hudson and Latoya Luckett, were all contestants. And this happened during that season of American Idol.
American Idol, we are live and we have left George Huff hanging, ladies and gentlemen. George, we heard what the judges had to say. America has voted, and good news, you are safe this week. George, you are not in the bottom 3. So I want you to go and join, George, go and join the top group tonight, please. On the stage, George. Not in the bottom 3. Please join the top group tonight. George Huff, everybody come on over. George, everything's going to be all right. Okay, America, take a look at this. George, I said step into the top group. You're in the wrong group. Please step over here because tonight, this is our bottom 3. Fantasia, Jennifer Hudson, and Latoya London, America. After the American Idol.
So after, so I don't know if anyone had remembered this moment live, but that moment actually generated a lot of controversy in terms that those 3 were considered to be the top performers, the most consistent performers, and yet they were the bottom 3 in America, and ultimately Jennifer Hudson was eliminated. So the questions to consider for this particular song is how did American Idol's influence and the rise of rap and R&B contribute to Fantasia's win? How did the 3 Divas incident, which is the title that they gave those 3 singers, just because they were all Black, female, and and were considered soulful. How did it speak to differences in race and voting in America? And what elements of Fantasia's story resonated beyond American Idol? So we'll take about a couple minutes to, we'll take about just a couple minutes and then we'll check back in. Feel free to share out through the chat or through your speaker. Mhm. But one thing I do want to mention, Ash saying the faces of confusion, right? And it's very, it also tells how, at the end of the day, American Idol is a reality TV show. And they tend to play up the suspense, the drama, the way that Ryan Seacrest, set up George Huff, the person who was sitting and like headed to what he thought was, the safe group, you know, um, and like builds up to like, oh, pulling the rug out from the audience, pulling the rug out from the people involved as well, just so that, you know, that people stay tuned in, that ratings still increase. And unfortunately, that worked.
I guess to me, to answer the third question, the elements of Fantasia's story that resonate beyond American Idol. I mean, in regards to American Idol, I've always found that show like dumb. I always thought it was exploitative and stupid. Um, and like not a real barometer for like what's interesting then or now. And so I guess to me it's just another example of um yeah, like a stupid platform um attempting to delegate what um is or isn't worth it, who is or isn't worth it in the context of I guess pop music or the pop sphere, and how ultimately irrelevant that is to um taste more broadly, and like what people who are like actual humans want to hear, because Fantasia is sick. um but yeah, I guess I would just say that.
Thank you, James. And I do want to mention the person, right, who was eliminated that night turned out to be Jennifer Hudson, who we all know is now a EGOT winner, which is winning an Emmy for television, an Academy Award for Dreamgirls, multiple Grammy time winner, and a Tony winner as well. Um, so, and like, and you raise a really good point in mentioning how what parameters are in place in terms of measuring talent, and instead of for measuring real authentic talent, and how most of the time American Idol is a popularity contest. And I think, like you said, Fantasia is a fantastic artist, and I think is one of the few times that American Idol was able to focus on that, in terms of her winning the whole show. I'm gonna give it about 20, 30 more seconds for anyone else who would like to share before we move on to the last part of our discussion. Oh, sorry about that. So I want to take about the rest of the time for us to work on a workshop. I created a map, which I'm gonna post on the chat for us to write down thoughts, connections that we made, things that we want to add for the 4 songs on the list. Let me copy and paste. We'll take about 5 to we'll check in about 5 minutes. If people are still finishing, if people are still writing, we might add an extra minute or 2, and then we will finish our conversation. And then this is what everyone should see on when they click on the link. So feel free to include to write on a sticky note right here. So you can click on a sticky note and be able to write down any thoughts you might have about the 4 songs that we covered, and then place them on the place them by the song.
Ash, I see your message that you can't get into the Jamboard.
Yeah, it won't let me in.
What is it saying exactly? Is it saying that you need? If I can add you with the email you sent, maybe with the email you RSVP with, if that's helpful.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Is everyone else able to access the Jamboard? And if you're not able to use it right now, you might be on your phone. You might, you might be on your phone or a tablet. You can. We'll also have this link sent out to you as well, so that if you do come up with some more thoughts, feel free. This will be available to you to write down. So we'll give it about another minute before I'm headed back. Okay, I want to take the time to thank everyone for attending the first workshop of the year Black music became pop music. We will return the same time, 7:15 on July 10th. And this one will focus on the year of Usher and the 4 songs from his album Confessions that hit #1 that year. Again, thank you so much for your time, and hope to see you next week, next month.